Hello, this is Jasmine, and I'm here with February's Sketchbox, and this is really cute. It's got a little turtle with bunny ears, so let's go ahead and see what kind of supplies we got. We have, as usual, our card, and this is really pretty. Here's the artist. So this sketchbox is really light, and I'm curious what's in here. Let's see if we can find the paper first. This isn't paper, but watercolor graphite pocket set. I think I've seen other people use these before. They're like colored graphite that's water soluble. I'll swatch those in a second. Okay, are these the same thing? Color Tint by Spectrum Noir? No, that's not the same thing, but they seem similar. So this is by Cretacolor, and these are, again, by Spectrum Noir. We've got several colors. I'll mention them when I swatch them. And we've got a brush. This is a Princeton brush. I'm assuming it's a watercolor brush. I don't think we're getting any paper this. What the? Oh, this is a watercolor pan. I don't know what color. This should be a good box because I really enjoy myself some watercolor. Oh no. Okay. It's got a sheen to it. This is like graphite. Like, it's watercolor, but graphite. It's even getting it on my fingers. That's really interesting. I was going to try and be really fast with the introduction of the supplies, but it's kind of baffling me. This one specifically. Like, these, I've seen them before. Okay, graphite, watercolor, water soluble, but this one in its own little pan is weird. Let's see if that's it. We've got our cute little eraser, Sketchbox sticker. It'll be interesting if they don't give us an eraser because this is all graphite. Okay, so that is it. So I'm definitely gonna need probably an eraser and some paper actually to get started. So I'll be back with that and do some swatches. Okay, we have a... Oh! This thing does not want to stay in. Okay. This is Derwent Graphitint Pan in Juniper. So let's see how that looks. For the Cretacolors, we have Aquagraph Blue, Aquagraph Green, Aquagraph White, Aquagraph Red, Graphite Aquarelle. Well, that one's a different name. That just sounds like water graphite. Another just Graphite Aquarelle. Okay, so these have different 8B, and this one is HB. So they're different hardnesses. These ones probably are just gray. For the Spectrum Noir ones, we have Rockwell Blue. These ones are a little scratchier. These ones were smoother. Moss and Rust. So we have quite a variation of color. These look like initially they're more pigmented. But let's see what they do with water. These are way more pigmented than I thought they were going to be. Like, I thought they'd stay pretty muddy looking, but this is almost the same color as that. They really dissolve, which is nice, because so far the only problem I've had with this kind of material is not wanting to dissolve. Okay, so the Spectrum Noir ones do not dissolve nearly as well. And they're not as colorful when they do dissolve. I thought this might be the case because they were way scratchier. I'm gonna try going a lot more heavy-handed with these and see if that makes a difference. If I do have to go this heavy-handed to get a good effect with these, that would suck because it would kind of hurt your wrist after a while, and also it's really damaging the fibers of any kind of watercolor paper that you might put them on. It would really squash the fibers down and burnish. Okay, we're definitely getting more pigment this way. It still doesn't smooth around a lot. I feel like these are definitely more of an add color after the fact kind of pencil. I'm gonna see how well it takes from the pencil itself. You can already see it's actually splashing a little. That's much smoother. Yeah, I could use this just like a regular watercolor. The brush also is very nice. I like it. So that's nice. I dare say you could get more pigment this way than really burnishing it down hard. The only problem I have with this is sometimes it really eats away at the core. I'm sure every pencil is a little different, but you gotta be a little careful not to get it too wet or not to leave too much moisture on the pen. Okay, so I think we've got a lot to work with here. These are gonna be really nice. I'm not sure what I'm gonna make yet, but I know that I can work with these really well because they're basically watercolor. One thing I was really curious about with these, because they are graphite, is whether or not they have a shine to them, and they don't seem to, with the exception of this one, the Derwent Graphitint pan. It seems to have a very slight like shimmer, but it's not quite like graphite. It's actually really pretty. It's almost slightly glittery, and I really like it. I think it's really pretty. So I have 4 cats, and I was looking at these colors, and I have a black cat, and I have an orange cat, and I have a tortie cat, and I have a blue point Siamese. And I just thought, well, these colors are kind of perfect. So I'm going to take a piece of, this is just Arteza watercolor paper, and I'm going to take a piece of this and probably digitally sketch up an illustration of my cats, maybe portraits. Maybe throw in like some foliage or something with the green as like a background to make them pop. And I'm going to use my light box to transfer the sketch and really work on a nice piece with these. I'm really inspired by these muted, really pretty colors. I especially love that with its slight glitter. Definitely going to use that in my black cat's fur and in the shadows probably. One more thing before I forget and before I get into anything is I'm assuming that these are going to be rewettable like watercolors, but they might not be. They might be closer to ink. Well, they're not very rewettable. Up here more so, where there's still a lot of pigment. So yeah, they are rewettable, but it doesn't look like where they've gone down that I can like blend them out to nothing like I could with some watercolor, but that could just be this paper as well. This one does a lot more. So that's also probably just something I could do easier on actual watercolor paper. This is just a mixed media sketchbook. Present Day Jazzy here, and I've got a question from my followers. This video is a couple of years old, but I updated it to have my part 1, part 2 kind of thing, so you can find what you want real quickly in the content. And I'm curious, do you guys prefer a more long form sketch along calm kind of video where I go in real time unboxing and swatching and telling you guys my opinions? You get to see my first reactions to everything that's in there. Or do you prefer a more condensed, shorter video where I time-lapse through all of the unboxing and the swatching and pretty much get straight to the artwork? I know that it can be tedious when the entire unboxing and swatching part is a good half of the video, but I also know that it can be incredibly useful to see an artist's first reaction and how the product works in a swatching fashion before they go in and start using it in an actual piece. But if you would like, I can go and just go directly into the artwork and tell you my opinions on the products as I'm working with them in the art piece, but this would most likely be a time-lapse sort of voiceover situation, and I wouldn't be talking about them as I am first putting them down. So any feedback that you guys could give me would be greatly appreciated. I am really trying to gear my videos towards other artists and beginner artists that if I'm doing an unboxing type of video, they might not want to go out and spend their hard-earned money on these products once they actually see them in action and that they understand how they work, because there might be a product in here that I am able to create a very good artwork with and work around its faults, but knowing how it actually reacts could be very helpful. Because even though I might be able to make a decent artwork, that doesn't mean that other artists, particularly new artists, are going to want to deal with those materials' drawbacks. And maybe someone might absolutely love something that I don't necessarily like as much, and I don't put as much into the finalized artworks, such as granulating watercolors. I'm not a huge fan, so if I got a watercolor set and I tested it, I wouldn't necessarily in my final piece be using a lot of the colors that granulate. But I do know that that is something that a lot of artists absolutely love. That being said, let's get onto the artwork. So these are my 4 kitty cats. The one that I'm working on that at the top, that is the black cat. Her name is Day. She turns 18 this spring. I'm gonna have a whole adult on my hands. She should go out and get a job and start working and paying the bills. The Siamese is Mana, and she is a big sweet potato kitty. And the tortie, her name is Pixie, and the orange kitty is Evie, and Pixie is Evie's kitten. I got Evie straight off the street because she kept having kittens and people would bring her in and keep her kittens and then put her back out on the streets because she was quote-unquote too difficult to keep in the house, which is not the case at all. She is now a happy indoor kitty. Long story short, I absolutely loved all of the materials in this box. I used them in different ways. Mostly I took pigment directly off of the pencil tip because I'm not a fan of the way most of these kinds of pencils, watercolor pencils, leave quite a lot of ghosting or line work left behind even after you add a lot of water. But I tried to take pretty much all of the materials and use them at least a little bit in each one of the kitties so that it gave it kind of a cohesive look. I think one of my favorites was using the blue tones to create my Siamese. Yes, she is what's called a blue point Siamese, but that basically means gray in terms of cat colors. It just turned out absolutely great though. And I also really loved the graphite pan. It's such a crazy thing. I didn't think that I would like it very much. Like, it's shimmery, but it's a little difficult to work with. In my opinion, all graphite like water-soluble graphite and water-soluble pencils are a little difficult to work with because the water pushes the pigments around on the paper more so than with like watercolor. Like, you add water and the pigment just gets pushed around and a little streaky, but because I was working with fur texture, that wasn't really a problem. So I took the graphite pan and I used that to be my darkest darks in each of the cats. Even Evie, who has very little dark coloration, I kind of put a hint of her stripes in there and did the darks of her eyes. These colors were perfect for the cats, and I think they would work for a lot of cats. I could see tabbies going really well with these materials, and I mean, the brush was fine. But I would not recommend something like the pan graphite for large smooth washes unless you wanted to make them very pale, because again, the pigment particles push around on the paper a lot instead of like spreading out evenly. Like you put your brush through it, and where the tip of your brush was, you'll see a line from all the pigment being drug around. It looks really good here, but again, a large wash, I just think it would look quite patchy. You can kind of see it in Day up in the corner, like the area where her cheeks are. Of course, there is a lot of pigment on there, so I think if you did a very light wash, it would work out great, but I don't think you could layer too much because it does reactivate quite strongly. So I don't think that you could do like a light wash and then put another wash on top and another wash on top to get a very dark but even color. That being said, these, after I knew their drawbacks, were quite a dream to work with. I loved this Sketchbox and I still use these. I like to sketch in my sketchbooks nowadays with water-soluble pens and markers, and I will use these as well. My general process is the same as it would be in regular watercolor. I worked in layers after layers, slowly building up the colors and the tones that I wanted. I don't have a lot more to say about this piece as far as the artwork or techniques go. It was very similar to working with watercolor, but I will say that this is the last Sketchbox you will see from me, at least for some time, because I got Sketchbox from my sister as a present for Christmas, and the subscription has ran out now, so I don't have any more Sketchbox coming in, and I don't intend to subscribe to any more boxes like this in the future, at least in the near future. If you would really like to see more stuff like this from me, then of course things like likes and subscribing and leaving comments are obviously extremely helpful, because the more I can get my art out there and the more people perhaps subscribe to my Patreon and things like that, maybe I can get some more subscription boxes and I can make more videos about them and give you guys my opinions. Maybe I can get subscription boxes that aren't even necessarily artwork based, and I could do similar to like Casey Golden kind of things. I've been kind of interested in that, getting like a food box or something like that and then making characters based on them, or maybe making monsters based on them, something like that. I always find those kind of videos just extremely fun to watch. So again, if you can help me out in any way, even just by liking or leaving a comment, it is so helpful. And I really hope that you guys liked watching this. Again, I am Jasmine Zelmer pretty much everywhere, and you can find all my links on jasminezelmer.com. And yeah, I love the way this turned out so much. Look at my cute little kitties. Alright, thanks for stopping by.